They were never supposed to escape, but sometimes nature has a way of forcing its way free. When that happens, though, things can get messy. Like in this case, when a group of very angry bees found themselves in an entirely new continent where people had no idea what was coming for them. Things got bloody. These super stingers are known today as killer bees, and they're one of the most feared creatures in all of America. But how did they become the killers? Hi, and welcome to Life Noggin. Today we're talking about Africanized bees. So buzz this episode over to your friends so they can learn all about killer bees. Africanized bees, also known as killer bees, are a hybrid subspecies of the honeybee, Apis mellifera scutellata. While there are 9 recognized subspecies of honeybees today, Africanized bees are the only ones that live in the Americas. And they have quite the reputation for being super stingers. Just ask anyone in California who's had an encounter with one of these super stingers. Since 2007, there have been at least 439 recorded deaths caused by these killer bees in California alone. That's why California recently passed a law making it illegal to import or sell Africanized honeybees within the state. But before we go into exactly why these bees are so deadly, let's take a step back and look at exactly how they came to be. In the 1950s, Brazil needed more efficient and robust honeybees. At the time, the main type of honeybee in Brazil was the European honeybee, Apis mellifera scutellata. While docile, these bees weren't great at surviving the harsh environment of Brazil. So scientists in Brazil began to experiment with breeding a new type of honeybee, one that could survive the heat and produce large amounts of honey. They selectively bred bees from the Italian and Russian varieties with Africanized honeybees, which are native to Africa and known for their hardiness. What they ended up with was a hybrid Africanized honeybee that they hoped would thrive in the tough Brazilian climate. But here's the thing. While scientists thought they had created the perfect honeybee, they didn't know what kind of honeybee they had on their hands. See, bees mate with each other before they hatch. This means that when the female bee hatches, she's already pregnant with sons and daughters. So when the Brazilian scientists released the Africanized bees into the wild, they quickly found out that they had made a big mistake. Some of the Africanized bees that were supposed to stay in the apiary escaped. These escaped bees then mated with local European honeybees, creating more Africanized bees. Before long, the population of Africanized bees in Brazil exploded, and they began to move north into Central America. And while you may think that the scientists just created a superior honeybee, the problem was that these bees were a lot more aggressive than they had anticipated. Not only that, but these Africanized bees were also much more defensive of their hives. But first, let's start with their temperament. While bees in general can be grumpy if you invade their space, Africanized bees are downright mean. See, when an Africanized bee lands on you, they will bite down and not let go. On top of that, they will also inject a massive amount of venom into you. As a result, it isn't unusual for someone stung by an Africanized bee to go into anaphylactic shock and die. This aggression doesn't just apply to humans either. If another insect enters the hive, even a butterfly, expect an attack from the Africanized bees. And that brings us to our next point, their defensiveness. If a bear or a human approaches a honeybee hive, a normal honeybee colony will swarm the intruder, but usually only stinging if the swarm is touched. An Africanized bee colony, however, will chase intruders up to half a mile away. And unlike regular honeybees, who will stop chasing intruders after a while, Africanized bees will keep after them until they catch a break or decide to give up the chase. This is exactly what happened to one park ranger in Texas. One day while working in Big Bend National Park, the ranger saw a swarm of bees around a log near a hiking trail. Thinking that he should warn the hikers of the bees, he decided to walk closer. Bad idea. The ranger was soon swarmed by thousands of Africanized bees. Luckily, he was able to run to his truck and lock himself inside. But the bees followed him there and continued to pound on his truck. He ended up spending the night in his truck with thousands of angry bees outside. In the morning, when the sun came up, the bees finally left. So it's clear that these bees aren't the best neighbors. But the question is, why do they behave this way? Well, it's likely because of their African ancestry. See, the killer bee has African roots. Originally, the Apis mellifera scutellata honeybee is found only in Africa. However, these African bees actually consist of several different types of honeybee, all of which have slightly different behaviors and appearances. In general, however, African bees are smaller than European bees, and they tend to be darker in color. They're also a bit hairier, and their nests are more exposed, unlike European honeybees, which often build their hives in protected places like hollow trees. Because of this, African bees evolved to be more defensive and aggressive. They need to be, to protect their hives from predators like honey badgers, birds of prey, and elephants. That's right, elephants. They love eating honey and will destroy beehives just to get a taste. So African bees had to evolve to defend their homes, and that's what makes them such dangerous neighbors. Today, Africanized bees are found throughout Central America, South America, and the southern United States. While they've been in Florida since the 1990s, it wasn't until 2006 that they were detected in California. Since then, they've caused a lot of problems for beekeepers and scientists alike. Because of their small size, Africanized bees are difficult to spot in a hive full of European bees. It's especially difficult to identify a pure Africanized bee since they can look similar to a European honeybee. In fact, it can be really hard to tell the difference between an Africanized bee and a European bee, except for their behavior. However, there is one physical feature that can help beekeepers identify Africanized bees: the amount of pollen baskets on the bees. Africanized bees have pollen baskets with straight sides, while European honeybees have pollen baskets with triangular sides. Of course, this isn't a foolproof method, but it is a good place to start. But many beekeepers fear that it's too late for the US. Many commercial hives have already been lost to the Africanized bee. And even if they can identify the Africanized bees, it's too late for those bees. There's no treatment for an Africanized beehive. Once they're in there, beekeepers can't treat the hive without killing all the bees. This is why California recently passed laws banning the sale and import of Africanized bees. But even this might not be enough to stop the Africanized bee. Right now, the US is trying to track down all the hives that have Africanized bees in them so they can be treated. But with over 2 million hives in the US, it's going to be hard to find them all. Especially since the Africanized bee is an extremely good flyer. These bees can travel up to 25 miles per hour, which makes them really hard to track, and they can fly really far distances. Every year, millions of Africanized bees travel up to 600 miles to their wintering grounds. This means that they could potentially spread to other states, including Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, and Texas. And once they're there, they could cause a lot of damage. Not only are these bees aggressive, but they're also efficient honeymakers. In fact, they make twice as much honey as European honeybees. This means that if they take over a region, they could cause serious economic damage to beekeepers. But while Africanized bees are a huge problem for beekeepers, they also play an important role in the ecosystem. Like all bees, they're pollinators, which means they help plants reproduce. Without pollinators like Africanized bees, many plants wouldn't be able to reproduce, which could lead to a collapse of the ecosystem. On top of that, Africanized bees aren't as bad as their reputation. Yes, they're aggressive and defensive, but they're not out to get you. They only attack when they feel threatened or when their hive is in danger. In fact, they're really beneficial for farmers. Studies have shown that Africanized bees are better pollinators than European honeybees, which means they can help crops grow bigger and produce more food. So, what does this mean for the future of the Africanized bee? Will they take over the world, or will they die out? Only time will tell. What do you think? Are Africanized bees a menace, or are they just misunderstood? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to click subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss an upload. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. Here at Life Noggin, we love exploring the world around us, and we'd like to thank our supporters for helping us make these videos possible. With your support, we can continue to explore our world and bring it to people all around the globe. We've got a bunch of fun stuff on our support page. You can check it out at the link below. As always, this has been Life Noggin. Don't forget to keep on thinking.